For whatever reason, one of my favorite class fantasies is some sort of warrior that can throw a hammer and then it'll return to them. And I thought, can we do that in Baldur's Gate 3? And heck, can we throw some radiant damage on top of that? So essentially, we're going to try to make something like a Hammerdin from Diablo with the Paladin class, or somebody like Pike from Vox Machina, that animated show. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Today, this is what the format of the video is going to be, so you can jump around to any section. We are going to have an equipment section. We usually don't have those very often. On this channel, we like to make very simple builds that have a strong theme that you can bring into Honor and Tactician mode. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, or coffee in my case here, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And we have a lot of things that are cooking on the channel. If you want to know what the heck I'm talking about, well, just I guess stay tuned towards the end. But other than that, let's get started. Now, starting off in character creation, some of you thinking, okay, it's a nomad video, he's just going to make a human male. And to that I say, no. Today we're going to make a dwarf with a big old bushy beard. I had a bushy beard and then I shaved it, and now I'm a little more sad. Anyways, yes, a dwarf. Do you need to be a dwarf for this build to work? No. Will it help a little bit? In some instances. So if you want to make a dwarf, great. If not, it works too. Now, that's a pretty good dwarf. Durin would be proud. So with our race out of the way, we're going to go with our class, and we're going to be picking a fighter. Fighters at level 1, they get second wind, a little bit of a heal. That's great. Fighting style, just go with defense. I think that is your best bet. Background can be whatever you want. I'm just going with soldier. And then you want your ability point spread to be something like this. We want 16 strength, 14 dexterity, 14 constitution, and 14 wisdom. So that 16 triple 14 spread, very, very useful for what we're going to be delving into for this build. So that is level 1 out of the way. Let's go ahead and head to level 2 and start the whole leveling section where we can talk about our feats as well. Now, thankfully, leveling fighter is pretty simple. Level 2, we get action surge, meaning we get an extra action between every short rest. This is amazing for literally everybody. Level 3 here, this is when we pick up our subclass. We're going with Eldritch Knight. Not so much for the spell casting side, so cantrip, I would just take Booming Blade because it's amazing, and then definitely lock in Light. This is going to help with our equipment, so those are the two cantrips that I would go with. Spell-wise, I would just go with Shield, and then anything else you want. Maybe Chromatic Orb, just so you have like an elemental option. We also get these expanded spells, so if you don't have somebody that's casting Longstrider, I actually would take Enhanced Leap. We're going to be able to do some fun things with Enhanced Leap there, but Eldritch Knight, the real feature that we want from this subclass is being able to use Weapon Bond. That means any weapon that we pick up, we bind them to ourselves, and they will return to us when thrown. So we're going to be obviously focusing on weapons that have that thrown weapon property, because not all of them will return to you. There are some weapons like the Return Pike, Nirulna, that'll also return to you when thrown. But for the build that we're going for, again, focusing on hammers, we just basically want to make sure that every light hammer that we pick up will have that return factor to us. So Weapon Bond, that is why we're going with Eldritch Knight. Could you make this build work with something like a Berserker or a Giant Barbarian? Yes, but again, for this build here, we're going to just focus on Eldritch Knight because it kind of makes it very simple and easy to follow along. So that is level 3 out of the way. Let's head on to level 4. So moving on to level 4, we get to pick up another spell. This really isn't important. I'm just going to take Burning Hands. We can also replace our spells anytime you want. It doesn't really matter that much, I would say. But onto our feats. Really, you have to lock in this feat here, Tavern Brawler. So what this is going to do is add your strength modifier to your throwing weapon damage. But then also separately, it'll tack on your strength modifier as like another section of damage just for Tavern Brawler. This is amazing. It's not how it works in regular D&D, but for Baldur's Gate 3, this feat is awesome. And it's basically essential for if you're going to do a throwing build. We also get to bump up our strength +1, but throughout this leveling process, we are going to end up at 20 strength. And you can get that up to 22 strength if you use the potion that's in Act 2. There's a drow, you let Astarion bite her, she'll give you a potion. I would give it to a character like this, but strength is not a problem to manipulate in Baldur's Gate 3. You could also just go the route of drinking an elixir of Hill Giant strength as well, and just bump it up to 21. There's a lot of ways to deal with strength. We're just going to make it very simple in this video here. The other couple feats that we're going to want to mess with is something like Athlete. It's going to increase our jump distance by a lot, but also it's going to let us bump up our strength again by 1. So at level 6, we're going to take this, and our strength's going to be at 18, but we're also going to have the benefit of Tavern Brawler and Athlete here. And you're just going to see how crazy our jump distance can be with Enhanced Sleep plus this. It's really funny. And then for our last feat, because with this build, we are going to have 3 feats available to us, we're just going to use ability improvement. And again, just keep bumping up our strength. That way, without any manipulation from elixirs, our strength is going to be sitting at a nice 20, which again, take that potion in Act 2, it's going to be at a permanent 22, which is it's just fantastic. So that is the feats out of the way. Let's go ahead and move on to level 5. Level 5, pretty important for a fighter. We get extra attack, meaning we can throw our hammer or whatever weapon you were throwing. If you're following this build, it should be a hammer. You can throw it twice. Use action surge, you can throw it even more. It's great. Let's move on to level 6. Now level 6, we get our second feat. And that's when we're going to be picking up Athlete here. This is bumping up our strength to 18. And this is actually our last level into Fighter. This is it's a multi-class build. Now, the class that we're going to be adding on top of this is Cleric. The only reason we're adding Cleric is because of Spirit Guardians. We're doing a little RP in our head that when we use Spirit Guardians, instead of those little, radiant birds that are flying around you, they're hammers instead. Kind of just works for the vibe that we're going for. So from Cleric, as far as cantrips are concerned, or just maybe make sure that you have guidance. That's just kind of universally pretty good. As far as your subclass for Cleric, probably Light Domain. That way you get Warding Flare as a reaction. We already have Shield as a reaction, but having another defensive tool, that's not a bad thing. Spell-wise, we don't really need to worry about any of these spells. Maybe take Healing Word. This is a good way to pick up a downed ally from range. Not really worried about the healing properties from this. It's not going to help us out too much. And then Sanctuary, that's also actually a really good one that has nothing to do with our wisdom modifier, even though our wisdom modifier is set to 14. But Sanctuary, it's kind of like a get out of jail free card if your team is getting overwhelmed. But let's move on to level 8. We can kind of blast through these levels. I will mention that our channel divinity, Radiance of Dawn, we are going to have a lot of equipment that synergizes with radiant damage. So this does like a little AoE nuke around you of radiant damage. Very strong, can be very powerful for this build. Parrot spells, not really worried about those. Moving on to level 9 here. The only thing that we're grabbing is, no, we're not even there yet. Maybe Warding Bond. Warding Bond, maybe it makes sense for this because we are going to be very tanky. But let's keep moving along here. Level 4 for Cleric, level 10 overall, we get another cantrip. Again, kind of up to you. For our feat, our last feat here, we are going with ability improvement, bumping up our strength to 20. Remember, that is synergizing with Tavern Brawler, just giving us an extra 5 damage at this point, just onto every throw. That's pretty dang good. Now, level 11 here, this is when I'd say the build is almost feature complete, everything that we really want, and that's because we're picking up Spirit Guardians. Remember, little hammers flying around you, and that's really it. We could take another level, so we finish off this level for level 12. We could take another level into Cleric. This is going to give us another spell slot, but it's also going to improve our Warding Flare, and we get another Divinity Charge. Or you could go with another level into Eldritch Knight for War Magic. Using your Booming Blade, you're going to get another attack with your bonus action. Kind of just up to you. I'm going to keep that extra spell slot for using Spirit Guardians, and then I like improved Warding Flare 2 to help out your allies. So that is the leveling section. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about equipment, and then we'll jump to a gameplay section to end off the video. Now moving on to the equipment section, we have a lot of good pieces that can go with this build. Let's start off with some early stuff. So Holy Lance Helm, you get this at the Rosamore Monastery. It's up on one of the top levels in a painted chest. And then we also have the Luminous Armor. Every time we do radiant damage, we're going to cause a radiant shockwave, which basically just gives anybody or any enemies in a little bit of area those radiant orbs. This is in a Selûnite outpost. It's behind a hidden door, but you can also just jump to it from the waypoint, so it's really easy to access. And then moving to our glove slot, we're going with the Gloves of Uninhibited Kushko. You get this in the Underdark at the bone cloak vendor there, right at the grotto. And these gloves are going to add an additional 1d4 to our throwing weapon attack. So again, just synergizing with our build. But also at the grotto, we can get the Boots of Stormy Clamor. This is from that Illithid vendor. You got to do his mushroom quest. And these boots here, we can do that Radiant Orb and Reverberation combination, all with our throwing hammer. So we're not using any spell slots. Now, very early on, you can pick up the Ring of Flinging. This is going to add another 1d4 to our throwing damage. You get this from the Druid's Grove from Aaron, that first vendor that you meet there. Always pick this up, even if I'm not doing a throwing build. And then the other ring that I would recommend for this build is the Callous Glow Ring. So anytime we strike an enemy in a lit up area, we're going to do 2 radiant damage. And again, that's going to feed back into our other pieces of equipment to trigger that Radiant Orb Reverberation combination. And this is why we're also taking light as a cantrip. So we cast light on ourselves, and anybody that we're hitting is going to be illuminated, aka they're going to be taking that 2 extra radiant damage every time. Now for our weapons, I just have slotted in here the Skybreaker. You get this at the Arcane Tower. Again, this is in the Underdark. And really, we're just taking this until we get something like the Shining Staver of Skulls. This is at the Grimforge, and all you gotta do is go to one of the vendors and pick it up there. Now, because we're using thrown weapons, in our offhand, we can take whatever shield we want. So you could go with something like the Adamantite Shield, the Sentinel Shield, Catheric Shield actually works pretty well with this build as well. You'll be seeing me use the Shield of the Undevout, but again, any shield will work, and that's because our offhand is completely free to use whatever we want. And I think having shields is a good option. Now let's talk about some optional or additional pieces of equipment that you can slot in, because depending on your party, you don't know who's going to be having what pieces of equipment. So this works with, a lot of other pieces. For your gloves slot there, you could take the Gloves of Belligerent Skies. That's a good option. You can take the Luminous Gloves. This is all just for more radiant orbs, radiant damage. And then later on, instead of using the uninhibited Kushko gloves, you could use the Hell Dust gloves. You get this from going to hell. And instead of doing 1d4 extra damage, this will do a 1d6 fire damage. Those are good. Boots wise, maybe the evasive shoes. Boots really aren't that important. And because we're using that reverberation combination, the Thunderskin cloak here, that can be pretty good. The Corsication ring, again, more radiant orbs. I feel like, God, I'm saying radiant orbs a lot, but it works with this build as well. Again, that could be a good option there if you don't want that Ring of Flinging. You'll actually probably see me using this instead of the Ring of Flinging in the gameplay section. So another weapon, and the one that I really like for this build, and basically why we picked a dwarf, is the Dwarven Thrower. You get this in Act 3, and you have to talk to a vendor. Just make sure Shadowheart is not with you or anywhere near you. The vendor and Shadowheart are both like Shar acolytes. And just don't have her near you, and talk to this vendor, and he will give you, or you can buy this hammer from him. Now, if you're a dwarf, this will do extra damage. You can also, if you're not a dwarf, you can use disguise and disguise yourself as a dwarf, and you will get this extra bit of damage as well. Now, this weapon, this Warhammer, is actually one of the only Warhammers that has that thrown property. And the Dwarven Thrower here also comes with homing weapon, meaning it'll return to its owner after it is thrown. So really, we don't need to be an Eldritch Knight at this point, but this is an Act 3 weapon. So we have the whole game to go through. So I figured, let's just stick with Eldritch Knight. We still get the benefit of not being able to, or nobody can disarm us when we're an Eldritch Knight and we bind a weapon to us. So still really good to be Eldritch Knight, works with exactly what we're going for. But the Dwarven Thrower here kind of makes some of the class features we have a little redundant. And then one last piece of, I would say, Act 3 equipment that I think actually works pretty well with this build is Sevarog's Horned Helm. This is really just to reduce the dice roll we need to have a critical strike. We can get crits while we're throwing weapons, so if you don't have another, I would say, damage dealer, weapon damage dealer that is using this helmet, this works completely fine and pretty good for this build. Let's move on to the gameplay section. Now, moving on to the gameplay section here, what do we have? Well, we have Handsome Nomad and Shadowheart. Well, they're in a little bit of a tussle with the Flaming Fist, but don't worry, we have Dwarven Nomad sitting off here to the side waiting to save them. Now, with this build, as far as prep is concerned, all you really need to do is make sure that you have light cast on your weapon, and then if you know you're going into a fight, have Spirit Guardians already ready to go. I'm going to upcast it to level 4, and then give myself Enhanced Sleep because, well, you can see how far we can jump, and this is a really good way to make an entrance into a fight. And I think we want to get up to this archer here. So let's jump all the way to him and get into this. Yeah! That's a fun way to enter a fight. Now with Spirit Guardians and then Athlete, you can jump so far that essentially you're weaponizing your bonus action, getting close to people and hitting them with Spirit Guardians. So that's why I love taking Athlete, especially for any build that's centered around Spirit Guardians. Really good on clerics here. But now we really just get to just throw our weapon at anybody. And we have a ridiculously high, I would say, attack roll chance to hit. Because with something like Great Weapon Master, you have that penalty to your attack rolls. We don't have any of that going on with this throwing build here. So even though we have disadvantage, they're dead. We're always going to be hitting them. And then from here, we can throw our hammer. Yep. It's going to hit him. It's going to spread those radiant orbs. He's got two reverberations on the Cleric Flaming Fist here. And then we can keep going with something like Action Surge, which I think we'll do. And then we'll just keep throwing our hammer. We're getting all the damage from it. Boom. Ooh, and we crit. We have Sevarog's Helm on. And you can just see in the log here how much damage we're doing from just our thrown weapon. We're not wasting any resources other than, you know, your normal action resources. And then we can keep throwing. I don't want to kill him. Not yet, at least. Let's hit him. Again, just building up radiant orbs, reverberation. God, I've been saying that a lot this video. And then to finish it off, we can just jump right in there again. Boom. Killed one of them. She is not going to be able to hit anybody because radiant orbs, they give you a penalty on your attack rolls. Let's go ahead and just end turn. These two here, we're not going to do anything with them. Just going to take a little bit more damage. Going to try to hit us with command. Let's see how this one plays out, Cotton. actually hit us. This Cleric Flaming Fist not going down without a fight. Got hit again. Gonna grovel us again. This is the best Cleric I've ever seen out of the Flaming Fist. Gonna do it again. I think we discovered some sort of bug. How many times can you do this? Oh, I think they're out of spells. All right, let's end this. This almost got a little scary and out of hand. Let's go ahead, just throw our hammer. Yeah. Beautiful. I'm wondering if because their attack roll chance was so low that they're just like, okay, let's just keep using a spell instead. But this build it's really fun, guys. A lot of ways to do throwing builds in this game, and this is just one that's focused around hammers. Again, I was thinking about Hammerdin from Diablo 4, that paladin class, or Pike from Vox Machina, the anime. There's also the character in the Drizzt series, like 1,000 Orcs. Read it as a kid. There's a human there that had a hammer that returned to him after throwing, and it's just such a cool fantasy. And I thought, can we make it in Baldur's Gate 3? And the answer is yes, absolutely. But alright, y'all, that is the build. That is a video, a little bit of a channel update. We have started streaming. I think we're gonna at least aim at bare minimum once a week. I think we have the multi-stream setup, so if you prefer Twitch, you can follow me on there. I have a total of 1 follower, but the main focus of this channel will always be YouTube. So if you see us on, stop by, say hi. Right now the focus, I think, for the stream side is going to be Solasta 2. It's in early access. It's only supposed to be like 10 hours long, so I think we can chew through that. And then after that, I'm thinking we do a Baldur's Gate 3 run, and then after that, we'll just kind of see where the wind goes. But the test streams for streaming, a lot of fun. I thought it was going to be super stressful, but really wasn't. Some of you came in and said hi. I really appreciate you guys who did. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think that's something we can work into our schedule now. But yes, that is the video, y'all. If you've made this far, I appreciate the hell out of you. And I will see you next time. Peace and take care.